I'm going to tell you something uncomfortable today. The greatest threat doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from your enemies. It comes from the people who know you best. Your family, the people who sat at the same table while you were growing up. Most people never see this. For years they tell themselves, family is sacred. Silence the voice inside them, normalize the exhaustion. Then one day they look back and realize the place that wore them down the most during the most important years of their life wasn't the street. It was home. In his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle wrote, "If you want to pursue happiness, first pay attention to whom you love." For centuries, this line was taken lightly, but what Aristotle meant was simple and devastating. The wrong bonds build the wrong life, and the earliest, deepest bonds of all are formed inside the family. Carl Jung saw early family relationships as the foundation on which personality is built. A parent's unresolved fears, buried resentments, unspoken expectations, all of it gets passed down through projection. You carry it without knowing you're carrying it. In this video, we'll use the psychological wisdom Aristotle left behind to uncover the 9 family dynamics that silently hollow out high-value people from the inside. Most people carry these dynamics for years without ever noticing them, and they never notice because everything that happens inside a family gets filed under one word: normal. First dynamic, conditional love. You noticed it as a child. When you were good, they held you close. When you made a mistake, they pulled away. You thought that was love. It was a contract. Most people accept conditional love as love because they've never known anything else. They shape their entire lives around earning approval, the career they chose, the city they live in, even the person they married. Sometimes all of it traces back to that same search for validation. Aristotle wrote that there are 3 kinds of friendship in human nature: those built on utility, those built on pleasure, and those built on virtue. Family relationships rooted in conditional love fall into the most shallow category: utility. You are loved as long as you are useful. A person who grows up inside this dynamic spends the rest of their life asking one quiet question: am I enough? Success doesn't bring them joy. It brings temporary relief. Because deep down, they're always waiting for the approval to be taken away. Conditional love is a control mechanism wearing the mask of affection. Second dynamic, silent comparison. You're sitting at dinner. Someone speaks up. "Did you hear? Your cousin just bought a house at 30, cash." Nobody says anything directly to you, but the message is clear. Silent comparison is one of the most insidious forces that chips away at a high-value person's drive because it's never a direct attack. You can't defend yourself against it. Try, and they'll say you're overreacting. Jung described these kinds of indirect messages as shadow projection. The family's dissatisfaction, its disappointments, its own unmet ambitions, all of it gets redirected onto you. You become the screen they project onto. According to Aristotle, a virtuous person carries their own standard within themselves. Someone who lives by another person's measure isn't living their own life. The goals shaped by family pressure are usually someone else's dream. Comparison doesn't go quiet. It grows, and eventually it starts to sound like your own voice. Third dynamic, emotional blindness. We don't talk about things like that in this family. Have you ever heard those words? Maybe they were never spoken out loud, but you felt it. There are things in this house that don't get discussed. A family system without emotional maturity treats feeling as a threat. Crying is weakness. Fear isn't admitted. Anger is either buried or it explodes, nothing in between. Children raised in this environment never learn to recognize their own emotions. As adults, they can appear successful, capable, put together. But there's a fundamental gap inside them. They never learned to speak their own emotional language. Aristotle taught in the Nicomachean Ethics that the person who neither suppresses their emotions nor surrenders to them, the person who finds the balance between the two, is genuinely free. And that balance, he said, is a learned virtue. A person who is emotionally shut down grows up, but a frozen child stays inside them. Fourth dynamic, sabotaging success. You have a real opportunity. You share it with excitement. The The first response, "But what if it doesn't work out?" Or, "That sounds pretty risky to me." It's hard to call this cruelty, because the person saying it might genuinely be worried. But here's the deeper truth. Some families, without realizing it, hold you back from moving forward because your progress makes their stagnation visible. This isn't conscious jealousy. It goes deeper than that. Aristotle described this dynamic through the absence of what he called megalopsychia, greatness of soul. People struggle to tolerate greatness in others because greatness holds up a mirror to their own smallness. The person holding you back isn't someone who doesn't love you, but loving you doesn't mean they aren't hurting you. The one who resists your success the hardest is often the one who believes they love you the most. Fifth dynamic, the role prison. You're the responsible one in the family, or the sensitive one, or the one who never quite made it, or the one who keeps things light. These roles weren't assigned in a single conversation. They settled in slowly, invisibly, and you internalized them so completely that you no longer know where the role ends and where the real you begins. Jung called this the persona, the mask that society and family place over you. Wear it long enough, and the face beneath it disappears. Aristotle believed that human beings are oriented toward fully realizing their potential, what he called eudaimonia. But that's only possible through an authentic identity. A person living out the role their family assigned them isn't living their own potential. They're living someone else's expectation. The heaviest prison is the one with no lock on the outside. Sixth dynamic, the silent sacrifice weapon. I gave up everything for this family. That sentence is spoken with love, but something is hidden inside it, a ledger. The silent sacrifice dynamic is one of the most toxic of all, because the debt is never paid off. Pay it, and a new one appears. And this cycle isn't accidental. Even if unconscious, it maintains a power structure. The moment someone reminds you of their sacrifice, they step above you. Why? Because they load onto you what went unreciprocated in their own life, their own disappointments, their own surrenders, and they wrap all of it in the language of love, which is exactly why it's so hard to see. Aristotle defined a healthy relationship in Book 8 of the Nicomachean Ethics as one where both people are free. If one person is constantly made to feel indebted to the other, what exists there isn't love, it's dependency. The most dangerous chains are the ones put on you by people who love you. Seventh dynamic, emotional proxy. Your mother is unhappy, your father is disappointed, and from as far back as you can remember, you've been there to keep their emotional balance from tipping. Nobody told you this was your job, but you always felt it. When they laughed, you had to laugh too. When they were anxious, you became anxious. When tension rose between them, you became the mediator. Psychology calls this parentification, a child who takes on the emotional weight of their parents. Jung described it as the family's collective shadow being transferred onto the child. Aristotle said every individual has a telos, their own distinct purpose, their own direction. A person who shapes their existence around carrying someone else's needs slowly drifts away from that direction, without noticing. A child who tries to rescue their parents loses themselves in the process, and that loss stays invisible for years. Eighth dynamic, the punishment of success. You got into the school you wanted. You built a good career. You created an independent life. And then something unexpected happened. Your family grew distant. This feels like being misunderstood, like you did something wrong. But here's what's actually happening. Every family system wants to preserve its balance. When you change, that balance breaks. The system tries to pull you back, unconsciously but persistently. Your growth isn't celebrated, it's registered as a threat. Aristotle called this megalopsychia, greatness of soul. A person who knows their own worth doesn't let their environment decide where they belong. They don't wait to be understood. Because being understood was never a requirement for growth. Growing sometimes means becoming a stranger in the eyes of the people you love most. The person who knows this doesn't break. They just walk alone. Ninth dynamic, using the past as a weapon. You made a mistake years ago. You apologized. Time passed, But the mistake never ended. It came back in arguments. It became a weapon in moments of resentment. It got attached to your identity like a label that doesn't come off. The dynamic of weaponizing the past makes growth impossible. Because you're not seen as someone who has grown, changed, matured. You're filed away as someone who failed. And that file never gets closed. Stoicism rejects this outright. Marcus Aurelius taught that the past is only an object of observation, never a weapon. Aristotle defined virtue as a habit, which means human beings can change, can grow. A system that denies this isn't serving growth, it's serving control. The people who keep you trapped in your past don't want to be with you. They want to manage you. Let's take a step back and ask the real question, why? Why can people who love you cause you this much damage? Because love passes through the person giving it. And the more unresolved emotion, unmet need, and buried disappointment that person carries, the more distorted the love becomes, not intentionally, but inevitably. Jung called this the shadow. Every individual has a side of themselves they aren't aware of. The more that shadow is suppressed, the more it grows. And in the relationships where people feel safest, inside the family, it surfaces through projection. Most of the time, the target is you. Aristotle put it this way: a person can only truly love if they are at peace with themselves. Someone who hasn't yet understood themselves searches for something in you while loving you, an answer to their own incompleteness. Understanding this isn't the same as excusing them. It's seeing clearly. And the person who sees clearly is no longer a victim of these dynamics. They become an observer. If you've made it this far, here's what I want you to know. Recognizing these dynamics doesn't make you cold. It doesn't make you hard. It doesn't make you disloyal. It makes you capable of building relationships that are more conscious, more honest, more real. Aristotle's greatest lesson was this: a person builds their virtue not in the crowd, but first within themselves. No matter what your family gave you or withheld from you, who you become is your choice. The hardest growth isn't the kind that happens despite outside obstacles. It's the kind that happens despite the bonds closest to you. You watched this. You saw it. That alone is a beginning. The strong person isn't the one who rejects their past. It's the one who sees it clearly and becomes greater than it.